Welcome back to another episode of Have You Heard? And today I am joined by Zoe.
Hello.
Zoe Stevenson, my co-founder at The Social Shepherd.
It's a very strange way
Everyone's
to
got to know your
intro
second name. Yeah, I thought I'd add it in there.
Jack Shepherd here today,
Yeah.
reporting live.
Yeah, that's me as well. So Zoe, we're going to talk all things about starting the business and sort of lessons we've learned through that journey, I guess, not only from like a business point of view, but anything that we possibly have learned throughout that process. There's always loads of things. You're in a constant state of learning, I guess, when you're growing a business and running one. But what are some sort of key takeaways that you've sort of learned and can share with the audience?
I think one thing that I say to you quite a lot is that you meet so many people through doing this. You employ so many people, although we're very blessed. We've got a very low turnover rate. You meet loads of clients, you meet suppliers, and you just start to learn how complex people truly are and how different people really are.
Everyone's
different,
desires,
and
wants, needs.
and even just like the way people act and react to things. I always say, like, just in life in general, there's like wavelengths, and you'll find people that are on like a wavelength up here and you're like, I just cannot resonate, if that makes sense. And there's people on wavelengths down here. And I think when you start a business, you really learn to adapt to work with people on different wavelengths. And that's really, really important. You meet some crazy people though. And yeah, crazy subjective though. Do you know what I mean? But I would say like the complexity of people. And I think whenever you work with people as well, like you spend more time with your work colleagues than you spend with your like loved ones at home during the week. So you really get to know each other very, very well. And we've got such a lovely culture here at the agency where everyone is like, gets on really well, and everyone, if anyone is going through anything, like people are always sort of like there for them within a boundary set situation. But yeah, you really get to understand people and like how people work and react to things. So I think a lesson is just like people are complex and you're going to need to learn how to adapt very quickly.
Yeah. How have you adapted your way of communicating, I guess, throughout that?
I mean, I'm a very blunt and direct person, which everyone probably knows, to be honest. And to be honest, I think like from a day-to-day perspective, like that's how I kind of get stuff done and things happen like the best. But from like a one-to-one perspective, like when you're direct line managing people, you have to be taking a different approach. And even whenever you're going through like contracting stages with clients and things like that, procurement are going to have like one way. So you're going to have to be in a different tone with them as you are with your day-to-day contracts. And that's just, the tones that you're going to be faced with throughout those conversations. But when you're line managing people, some people find it really difficult to take any type of feedback or criticism, even if it's constructive. And then, that there would be a task where you would adapt your management style, but you would also say to that person, okay, we need to work on a bit of emotional resilience. And that's normal. Like everyone needs to build up resilience in some areas of their life. Whereas you might have some people who, I don't know, I've seen it before, people take things so literally that you'll be like, do this, and they'll just do exactly that. But then they won't think, okay, well, I've done that to that, so I should probably do this to it over here. And they'll just take things really, really literally, which doesn't aid you as you want to like level up in an industry. So that's then when you might have another task in your hand, you may have to take another tone there. But it's also not just one tone for every single person that you meet. It could be multiple different tones depending on what that person needs from you in that moment. So I think, a learning is just to be adaptable and like to be considerate of people. I think that's why, like I always say, like a respectful tone is so important, and like moving with kindness. So yeah, I think learning people are complex and at times crazy.
I guess that's a big part of any business. Like you said, it's not just your own team, but suppliers, contractors, customers, etc. There's all sorts of people that you deal with in all walks of life as well within that. Any other learnings
on
there?
like a personal level? I've like massively learned about the importance of sleep. I think like...
Do you get enough sleep though?
No, I don't. But I've learned how important it is. And that's come from like research, like...
Or not having enough of it.
Well, not having enough of it and researching because I'm not having enough of it. But and that's not, you know, that's not even to say like, I don't like work until 1 o'clock in the morning every single night. Like it's not like that. You know, I think when you start a business, you go through that period like we did at the very start. It was the two of us, and like you're a workhorse. Like you don't stop because the only responsibility we had was to the two of us. So we were physically doing the work, but what we were thinking about was the work. It wasn't the wider stuff going on. Whereas now with a team of nearly 60 people, the stuff that it's not worrying. I wouldn't say necessarily like sit up and worry, if that makes sense. It's just there's so much going on. And so like I'm consistently in a state, and I know like someone's going to turn around to me like, I watched your podcast and you need to meditate. But I am consistently in a state of just thinking about things, and then like you get so annoyed at me because I like wake up and I'll WhatsApp myself with like all the bullet points that I'm thinking about. So that's my like current issue with sleep. But my learning has been like, if you aren't getting, like for me, like 7 to 8 hours sleep a night, like you can't function properly.
Well, how
like
has it sort of negatively impacted you, would say?
You just can't function, and you can like it, you know, this goes for sleep, but it also goes for like nutrition as well. Like if you're not properly fueling your body and resting, it you might be fine for like a month maybe at the start of it, and like you might be able to do that, but in the long term it's going to impact your ability to think critically, to think logically. It's going to impact your ability to successfully communicate with people. It's going to really impact your patience, which is something I'm learning to have more of. But yeah, you need to sleep, massive one, but just like overall looking after your body, your mind, your soul, if we want to go down that like hippie route, but you need to look after yourself. I think particularly if you're, well, regardless, you need to look after yourself, but if you're going to be responsible for that many people, and you know your decisions are going to have that much weight behind it, then you need to be able to make them in a right space of mind, and that cannot come from a place of exhaustion.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But what's yours? Your first learning?
Yeah, I was thinking about this before we hopped on here, and I think it's, for me, one of the most important things is like defining what you actually want out of it. Like, are you trying to, you know, obviously plans change. You can create a business plan as such, and that's naturally going to change over the course of it. What you want out of life or a business is going to change where you are in your, you know, stage of life and stuff like that. But I think really defining what you want out of it, like, do you just love the doing? Do you want, is that what you love? And in that case, should you actually be starting a business, or can you be the number one in the business that you work in and have just as much satisfaction?
Can you be a freelancer? I mean, and freelancing is still owning a business some of the time, depending on how you want to do it. But I think one thing to flag is like categorizing. There are lots of different types of businesses. And so I guess we're talking from our experience of growing a business to the size that we have done. Like
10 people for me, in any way, in the sense of where is a lot different to where we are at 50.
I think they're both equally as like, they both have their own stresses, different stresses though. Yeah.
I remember early on our journey, we're working from serviced offices and have been obviously since the start until our move into the new office soon. But we actually met another agency owner that was branding agency that used to have it in London as well as Bath. I think they had offices in both, and they got to a place of about 50 where we are today. And then she decided, this is not what I want, and then completely downsized it to about 5 people, wasn't it? I think when we sort of met her, something, you know, around 5 people. You know, she thought what she wanted was to keep growing, but in reality got there, and that soon like changed, and she was like, I can't be doing this. Well, I want to go back to
her, which
the
I
craft.
can resonate with, is like, as you grow a business, if you're the business owner, your time is taken away from the craft, and you do turn into a glorified HR manager. And it's not to say that there's like loads of issues and stuff like that, but people need taking care of. There's a duty of care there. So you end up,
especially in like a service-based business where our product is our people and our delivery of that service. So if everyone doesn't have the resources or, is in the right mindset and stuff like that to be able to do that to the best of their ability. So that's why it is very people.
I mean, it's like tacky to say, and I've said it before, but like, our people are a product, and like that's just factual. Like
in a service-based business,
in our service-based businesses, and so for us, I think she was an agency owner, wasn't she? But I can resonate with that in terms of like you do until you get to a point where you can then employ people to do that for you, if that makes sense. But like I said, every single stage of business. I think Andy, our non-exec, he's had agencies of 200 people, and he's had agencies of 60, and I think it was like 75 or something like that. He said, once you get over the hurdle of like 75 people, you're making enough money to be able to like afford all of the operational people that need to support the business. And then your life becomes a lot easier because you're not trying to wear so many hats.
Yeah. And where we are at the moment, we're not there yet.
So many hats on.
No.
I'm having a hat party.
No, we're not there yet. Across different like finance.
You have 3 hats on at the minute.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Not as many hats as you, but still
it's not far
off. Too many.
Yeah.
I guess you should only realistically try and wear one and be able to do it to the best ability. But hopefully when we get to 75, that will change. And
I mean, I think like, you are right that you need to know what you're doing. And like, we're going through an exercise at the minute where like, I don't know if we thought that we would have grown it this far whenever we like started. I think we could have only hoped, really. And like, I'm so proud of what we've achieved, but now we're going through an exercise where we're so ambitious and we want to continue growing the company, but we're kind of like, what are we growing it for?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the goal? And I don't know. We don't know at this point in time. We just want to like, have a great agency, like a great culture for people to work in, grow it, be able to deliver really strong work. But like, personally, if you're going to start a business, you have to have a personal goal aligned to that. And like, that's something that we're working at the minute.
One thing that everyone says is hire people that can take roles on that either aren't very good at or you don't enjoy as well, is one of the other sort of lessons that I would take away from it as well. Focus your time and energy on what you actually enjoy doing. You don't want to be working.
Can we hire a contracts manager? Because I hate doing contracts.
Because you don't want to be operating and running a business that you don't actually enjoy, because you're going to start to hate it rather than actually, you still need to enjoy your work.
You do need to love it
because otherwise you're going to get burnt out, if that's a phrase. And
it's even
fall
like
out of love with it.
Like burnt out, or like just like you do. And I'm going to sound like such a martyr by saying this, but you do have to sacrifice. Depend on what stage you're going to be at, if that makes sense. But like, I'd say we definitely have had to like make a few sacrifices here and there in terms of life, which we were happy to do because we wanted to do it, if that makes sense. But if you're not aligned on what you're actually trying to achieve, then even personally, then it gets to a point like, is it really worth it? Because it doesn't turn off. You're still always responsible for those people. And it's just making sure that you're like respecting that. What would you tell people not to do whenever they're starting a business in their 20s?
Not to do.
Or would you would you recommend it? And that's a loaded question because there's so many different caveats, but would you do it again if you were?
I feel like I've got no choice.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I just feel like I've got no choice in that I'd have to do something again. Well, I don't. That's
because of your unemployable
That's untrue.
label.
But I don't know. I think it's oversold in terms of that it's glamorized when it's probably not. It's not glamorous, really, in a sense.
Not in the slightest.
It's more like the lonely venture, as we've sort of discussed before, you're on your own pretty much. Obviously you've got great people around you, but you're still on that.
Like when it all like hits the fan and like push comes to shove, it lands on your plate to fix it. Ultimately.
So, yeah. I mean, again, it comes down to like, what do you really want from life, and what is your own mission, I guess? Does that align with that, your mission?
Yeah.
Or are you going to end up?
And I think it depends on pacing. Because like we've aligned that like we're happy to have a faster paced life at this stage, with the hope that we can slow down at like another point, if that makes sense. So whereas you might want to just have like a sustainable pace.
Yeah.
And that if you want that, probably don't start a business.
Yeah.
I'd suggest.
And also, does, go on a deep level, does it provide you with happiness? You know, does the work, the goal in mind is actually going to provide you with happiness, or is it an empty goal of just, I want to make a 7-figure business and stuff like that?
I don't think anyone should start a business based off of like, I mean, you might disagree with this, but like just chasing short-term cash or anything of that nature, like chasing cash, like if you're committed to being a business owner and like, you know what's entailed with it. But I've watched loads of people just see something and they're like, oh, lucrative,
their eyes just
move all over the place, and they call themselves like an entrepreneur, but they've got like a new venture every like 6 months because
nothing goes anywhere.
No, because it's all short-term cash.
Yeah.
Like you should only start a business if you're willing to invest not even necessarily money, but more so your time and patience into something, because it's not going to grow overnight. Like we had basically 2 years before we even employed anyone.
Yeah. It's a huge proportion of your life as well. Because you need to invest your time for the long term. Otherwise, nothing's going to stick. And the only, for us, like I said, the momentum started at 2 years. If you can give up 2 years of your life and then start seeing momentum, are you willing to work for that, really?
And like, do you want momentum either? Because whenever we first started, we took quite a long time to think, do we want to just do this, the two of us, and we could like travel and just have like, a handful of small clients that we work on. And we were quite blessed that we had all the skills to be able to do the work that needed to be done, which meant that we could run like a relatively low cost operation, particularly to start with. And that was a consideration for us, but ultimately we decided that we wanted to like really go like full pelt at it and like try it. And that's kind of why we like amped up growth and things. But that again wasn't an overnight decision. Like it took time and learning to come to that decision.
Yeah. Plans will constantly change throughout. But yeah, I mean, for us as well, obviously a lot of people will say don't start a business with a co-founder or even a partner as well.
Yeah, loads of people do say that.
Even just
we
a co-founder.
have a no friends and family rule apart from us.
Yeah. No, I think I would recommend that to other people. Again, people will say the opposite though, like do employ your friends, like your close friends. Gymshark is a good example. Like he employed loads of like his good friends from uni and back home and stuff like that in the early days. There? I'm not sure if they still do, but I know they did like early stages.
Well, you used to work with your friends all the time.
Yeah, I used to do that as well. But I think it just it can blur the line and cause unnecessary friction, which wouldn't have occurred otherwise. Because everyone's got, like we said, different desires, wants, goals.
Yeah, I think it's worked nicely for us because we have very like aligned visions of like what we want out of life as well as what we want out of business and stuff like that, which is a blessing. And like touch wood, that never changes, or touch fluff. But yeah, I mean, I guess some people would say that. I mean, we've been lucky that it's worked thus far for us. But if you had a 20-year-old sat right there going, I'm going to start a marketing agency.
I don't know. Sorry.
I'd say get ready for a headache. But it's fun. I've enjoyed it thus far and will continue to enjoy it. I
would say almost, I mean, for us, like get experience of some degree before. Like obviously even for you had some experience in an agency beforehand. Not an awful amount, but it gave you a good foundation steading to move forward with, and like expectation management, stuff like that?
I think we were in a good place because I had agency experience in a new business team and client facing. So I was really lucky, the opportunities that I had. And then obviously you had owned businesses, so you knew what that was like.
Yeah.
And like I'm much more financially savvy whenever it comes to that kind of stuff, and like understand the terminology much more naturally than I would, because I started it coming a bit later into it than you did. I wouldn't suggest for someone to go and just do it like straight out of uni or like straight out of school. Obviously you get anomalies, and like there are really young people who start off some
special,
like really incredible businesses. But I'm glad that we did it when we did it.
You just have to like believe in yourself. Ultimately.
Yeah. You have to, there's going to be like loads of confidence knockbacks.
Yeah, it's going to be
like even to this day, like, I'll get off like a difficult call with a client, which happens rarely, but they do happen. And that is the truth. And you get a confidence knock, and then you go, okay, no, it's fine. Like we move, we go again, we learn from it. What can we kind of do to continually get better? And it's not like you start an agency, like become MD in my case, and then like you're done. Like you don't need to change, you don't need to grow, you don't need to develop. Like drop your ego, you're consistently going to need to learn. Because you're probably, if you're starting a business that young, going to be put in positions where you're actually, from an industry perspective, underqualified for it. And then you're going to need to self-learn, you're going to need to self-research, you're going to need to act and learn from doing, which can be hard sometimes. You're not necessarily given the self-patience to be able to learn on other people's time as such.
Lots of lessons here.
So many lessons. Thanks. We're basically at school.
Thanks for joining our classroom today, guys.
Thank you. I'll take my hats away with me.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, me and Zoe like to catch up on general businessy bits as well as the social side of stuff as well. So yeah, if you've got any thoughts, comments, please add them below, and we'll make sure to reach out and get back in touch.
Thank you.